Hey folks, it's Michael with the Reason RX podcast, back again after months, a little hiatus. I've been busy, other people have been busy. Mel's busy, she can't make it today. Scott's been busy. We've just been swamped, just stuff going on at work, life, and of course with this COVID quarantine thing, I've gotten massively swamped and overwhelmed and slammed with some online teaching. So finally kind of getting my feet under me. We can do something. But Scott Harris is with us again. As I say, Melanie can't make it today. She's got a lot of going on. So how you doing, Scott?
Doing good.
Cool. How's it been on your side with teaching? How's been the transition from teaching in person in class to teaching online, and how's the quality of the education going, you think? And maybe we can talk about advice for teachers, parents, students, and all this stuff. Kind of give teachers or some parents and kids your perspective, maybe.
Well, I think the biggest problem is when we had gone on spring break, and then that's when they announced that we weren't going to come back after spring break, and we were going to go to online learning. And while some teachers do a fair amount of stuff, say through Google Classroom, most teachers weren't really prepared for that style of instruction, and certainly the kids didn't know what to expect. But we were just kind of thrown into it, and there, not to blame administration, there wasn't a whole lot they could do. Mm-hmm. So they did, get together links on Zoom and that kind of thing, and how to use those tools. And we hit the ground running. I mostly just went to a similar kind of thing of what I was doing in class, in which I would have class on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And I would have a 9 o'clock, my psychology sessions are bigger than my macroeconomics and philosophy. So I would do psychology at 9 in the morning and then again at 2 in the afternoon. And you could tune in to either one, and it would be a live Zoom lecture in which the PowerPoint would be the basis for an interactive discussion, and we would conduct class that way. And then macroeconomics at 11 and philosophy I would do at 3. Well, by the second day, I realized that nobody wanted to be up at 9 in the morning. Yeah. Because the 2 in the afternoon class blew up. And so I just killed the 9 and decided to do all the psychology sections in one big giant classroom of about 70 kids.
So you were just doing 3 days a week?
Yes.
Each class, or every class you were doing 3 days a week?
Yes. And what I realized is you've heard of probably flipped classrooms, which we've been trying to do for a long time, in which short videos or whatever are given to the kids or readings, and they do that outside of class. And then you can, so instead of direct instruction in class, you have time to discuss and have deeper and richer conversations. The problem, of course, was getting kids to do that. Mm-hmm. And administration would always tell me, oh, they'll do it because they love technology. And when I float that line to the kids, they laugh. They say, we don't care about technology. We only care if it's engaging. So whether it's video, reading, it has to be good. Mm-hmm. I think the other problem we've had with flipped classrooms is we were expecting them to flip that stuff on top of the reading, the homework, the worksheets, etc. It is just too much.
Yeah, makes sense.
But by doing it online, I realized I didn't have to hold their hand as much and do it all online, that they could watch those YouTube videos and then we could flip it and discuss it in the online Zoom lecture.
And the classes you were doing 3 days a week, you had been doing 5 when you were meeting in person? 5 days
Correct.
a week?
Yeah. Correct.
What about
at the beginning of the week, I would send out a Google Classroom message and kind of either lay out, here's what's going to happen Monday, Tuesday, and then a separate one on Thursday. So here's the readings to have done, right? Here's the hyperlink to an article, or I can attach, a PDF, and then watch these 2 videos.
Mm-hmm. when you were doing in person, was it 1 hour, and then when you were doing online, was it still an hour? Or
Yeah, we were about 55 minutes, and so that's what we tended to do. The psychology went a full hour every time. The philosophy class is only, how many kids were in there? About 18. So we were often able to do that in 45 minutes.
Did you get some good discussion going in it since it's smaller?
Yes, and
Cool.
that class is very discussion based, and they were very comfortable with each other, so it went really well.
Cool.
The larger class, especially when you combine and have 70 in one, it's a bit harder to do freewheeling discussion, but you can certainly call
Yeah.
on students.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing for a class of that size would be some of the little buttons where you press thumbs up, thumbs down, or whatever. Then the school announced it during spring break. Like, how many days ahead did you know before you had to all of a sudden start online? 2 days,
I
a
don't
week?
know. It seems like a year ago. We've been on lockdown for so long.
Yeah.
We had about a week.
But it was
And
during spring
like I
break?
said, they put out some hyperlinks from the technology department about how to use Zoom and so on. And most of us were relatively familiar with Google Classroom and so on. It was just kind of figuring out how you're going to structure it, how you're going to get the info to the kids. How are they going to turn in if you give them worksheets? Are they going to email them? You can send them in through Google Classroom, send me a picture of the completed worksheet. So a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some students I was tutoring privately had a lot less tests, and all of a sudden they were doing group tests and
Yeah.
at-home tests and stuff like that, and so they didn't need my help because the classes became a joke.
Well, and
It's
that,
not
that
the
was
teacher's
one
fault, of course. I'm not blaming them. I'm just the situation. What the heck can you do, you know?
Right. And so there are ways to test online. But yes, certainly they could sit there online and with their phone text their best friend, hey, what's the answer to this? Or use Google. I don't know that that's as big a problem as maybe some teachers were making it out to be. In other words, I assume they do a fair amount of that anyway. Right? If they're doing homework and can't find the answer, or get stuck, they're going to do some Googling. But that's what humans tend to do.
Yeah, I was
So
about to say.
by
Yeah.
making it a group test where they pick their own partner or something, it really kind of reduces a lot of the fear of that. And frankly, I didn't see a huge change in grades from what they were doing in class
Interesting.
compared to online. And that's really always been the case. If you've ever had an open note test, you think, oh, everybody's going to make a high A. Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you didn't take notes or if you don't know where the stuff is in the book, it doesn't really help you a whole lot given the time constraint.
And I remember a teacher saying that when I was in high school too. I think, sometimes some teachers would offer extra credit. She said the only people who ever did the extra credit were those getting A's anyway. The people who needed it never did it.
And when I first started teaching, I'll be going into my 31st year of teaching this fall.
Cool.
I would only allow extra credit if you had a missing grade, a 0 or something like that. But I quickly learned what you just said, is that 95% of the kids that want extra credit are kids who have A's already and they're trying to bump their grade up. Why deny a kid who wants to do extra work? So I threw that rule out.
I think when I was younger, I did extra credit, not because I wanted the grade. I just wanted the challenge. It was nice to have the grade. Be able to say, I made 102 this 6 weeks. That was only in math. I didn't make 102 in anything else, only math. But in English, it was pretty ugly.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason I'm in social studies.
Yeah. But of course, that was back then. Then went to college, got a degree in philosophy. Things are different now. A lot different than high school. But that's interesting. So, were all the how would you make sure the students are all interested when it's online like that? That's the same kind of rule? Like those who do extra credit are the ones that are getting A's anyway? Is it the ones who are going to pay attention online are going to pay attention in class anyway, kind of?
I suppose, there's the hardcore kids that will tune into anything and everything, no matter how boring, because they're good at school and that's what they do. Um, I would say if you can't engage them and hold their attention in class, you're not going to do it online either. Kids know which of their teachers are engaging and which are kind of boring, which ones are funny, and so on. The funniest part about lecturing online is they typically have their microphones muted. So when you deliver a joke that you've used for years that always gets a laugh line, it's silent, and you just pause for a second, and it's just weird.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm teaching online, everyone has their video in dark, and I feel like I'm talking to a black hole or something. Hello? Is anybody out there? Does anybody hear me?
And that's my AP Macroeconomics class. This semester may be one of the brightest macro classes I've had. They've probably needed the least help from me. Cool. I've been teaching macro for probably 12 years. But kind of a little weird because they don't always like to talk a whole lot. And I press them for questions. You understand? And they're like, yeah, we got it. And the grades to boot. But when we moved to online lecture, they all had their cameras off. No questions, and I'm talking to 24 black tiles with names on it, and it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I agree. Same. One thing I noticed for myself, I was doing fine, but then in July, 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was interesting that I've been doing this, talking to the computer so much, and we don't have the normal human contact socially that we're used to. I'm used to that day in, day out, all the time, talking to all these people in person, all this stuff. All of a sudden, like, I don't know, 70, 90% of that is gone. And
yes.
So there's times when recently, starting 2 or 3 weeks ago, sometimes I was wondering if I was saying the right thing in class. I felt like literally, no exaggeration, I was in a dream state. I was wondering, am I saying what's in my, this, dream or that I'm having right now while I'm standing up, or I'm teaching the right thing? It was weird. And it might be partly because I was, autistic spectrum growing up. Maybe it's this thing that has to do with the way my brain works. But talking to a screen, not a person, it's so, some is fine, but after a while, it's weird.
Well, I agree. I'm fond of Jean-Paul Sartre's quote, "Hell is other people," because as a teacher, you see 180 students a day, 30 other teachers, janitors, admin. There's people in your face all the time, and it's nice to get away from that. Mm-hmm. So when the lockdown first happened, I was doing much better than I thought I would because I'm kind of an extrovert and like to go out and about. But the length of it now, I totally get what you're saying. I haven't seen other people. I've been to the grocery store and Home Depot and my family, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
Yeah. I think part of the thing, maybe I wasn't getting outdoors enough. That's one thing I know I need for my brain to function well. I used to think years ago, they say, the experts, so-called, half an hour of exercise a few times a week is good. I need 2 or 3 hours every day. I need to get outside to function well cognitively, emotionally, be balanced, get along with other people. When I don't, the world's a better place for me and other people. When I don't get enough exercise, and my diet is wonky, but it hadn't been wonky for decades, or a decade, but then the world's not so good of a place.
Well, that's, I think, been the biggest challenge probably for everybody, and I know certainly for students, is so much of our discipline comes from the structure of how we live our days, and now we were free to do whatever. And that's why I got rid of that 9 o'clock class. I knew my kids were staying up till 1 and 2 in the morning and want to get up for an early class. I I thought now I'd have all this time to ride my bike and so on. Did I? Not really. I actually do better when my life is more structured. And we're going to go, our first 3 weeks this fall are online, and then they're going to reassess, and we'll see where we go. But that is going to be one of my main goals, is to try and be super structured like I am in a normal school year.
Interesting. Yeah. As opposed to me having been self-employed for such a long time, I'm more used to it.
Right.
And maybe some of that autistic thing, I'm like, not so much, I don't think I'm that way anymore so much. Put it in remission or cured it or whatever. Exercise, diet. Because I know things are way differently than they used to be psychologically. I know it.
Well, that's what's funny is my oldest son, he's 17, has Asperger's and a bit of an introvert, whereas my 13-year-old is more extroverted and so on. So asking them about, how have you liked this being online? Well, my oldest son is living his best life.
Yeah.
He can stay at home, be online, doesn't have to see a lot of other people. But my youngest son is missing his friends more. And of course, they play online and talk that way.
Yeah. But I think I'm used to the making my own schedule thing, and because of the maybe autism thing, having to less social contact is probably, because of my decades of experience, easier for me to take than some other people. But we're all social animals, like it or not, autistic or not. We're still social.
Yeah. Well, and that that was one of the challenges that administration told us, that you've got to be really flexible with these kids because you don't know what they have going on at home.
Yeah.
How much computer access they have that they're sharing, or how well they're adapting and so on. And we all were. That wasn't hard to do. The big point I made with my kids is that I can give you an extension, but you have to be honest with me. You can't lie to me about assignments. So if the due date comes and you say I don't have it done, email me, tell me why, and I'll give you an extension. And I granted, 99% of extensions for as long as they needed. I said, I'd rather you take 2 extra weeks and not lie about it. Your honor is more important than whether or not we hit this due date. So just be honest, let me know what's going on, and I can work with you. And that worked really well. They were extremely honest. They were apologetic when they didn't make the deadline. And I said, that's fine. Get it to me then within a week or whatever extension we granted. I did have one kid, and I've had him for a couple of classes. I like him a lot. But he wasn't tuning in. And I didn't keep 100% bulletproof attendance, but I would generally write down the names every day of who was showing up so that I had a rough guide.
Yeah, that'd be tough for a teacher to keep track of. You got to write it down by hand, or there's not some electronic way to keep track of that?
I'm hoping to figure that out for the fall, especially if I'm doing a big section like 70 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. For the smaller classes, it's easy enough to write the names down, or I had my roll sheet so I could check them off as I saw them. But I emailed him, and he's like, I thought it was optional. And I'm like, there's the state law. School is required, whether it's in person or online, so you kind of have to be showing up most of the time for me to give you credit.
Yeah.
And so I only had about 3 or 4 kids that were like that, and I finally sent out a semi-firmly worded message in Google Classroom about showing up. Well, apparently one of the parents called the school, and I get an email from the administrator, and am I being flexible, etc. And I said, yeah, I'm being flexible. That doesn't mean you don't have to show up, though. Those are 2 different things.
So did the school get that? Was the parent kind of misrepresenting it?
Well, I'd never heard what the parent said per se. They just asked me to explain. I explained it, and they said, you're doing it exactly how you should.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, there's always misunderstandings among rational people. Unfortunately, there's those out there who lie and deceive and stuff like that. Always have been, always will be.
yeah.
But, what are some of the other challenges you had in making the transition?
Well, the online testing is going to be a thing. It will be a challenge. For philosophy class, we do a lot of Socratic seminar, or they do some short one-page typed right? So those are easy to grade and handle. It's macroeconomics and psychology that are more challenging to do online. The guy I teach macro with happens to be a whiz at all the online testing.
Cool.
So I put all that in his court, and he made the tests for us.
Oh, cool.
And they're automatically graded. They're multiple choice.
Is some of the stuff that students are sending you in via picture or email or whatever, is it making it take longer to grade everything? Or
Well, the psychology worksheets are really study guides, and they actually have the answers at the end of each section in fine print. Mm-hmm. And they're, of course, thrilled to find this out. And I tell them, look, this is not a gotcha assignment. This is a study guide to help you prepare for the test. That's the real measure. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I'm going to give you 100 if you fill this out. And you can mindlessly fill it out while you're watching TV, but that's going to come out when you take the test and you get a bad grade. Or you can think about this, thoughtfully as you're studying for the chapter. So they were able to just send me a picture of that, or some would flip through, a 5-second video, and you could see that all the pages were completed.
Mm-hmm. So mainly you're just using grades. You're not using a lot of homework or...
Right. Their homework is reading the chapter, because the chapters are 45 pages long. It's a college textbook. And then I would do the live lecture with the PowerPoint, and then I would post the PowerPoint only after I'd covered that, right? So the goal is, I'm not trying to give you all the stuff for the course. I'm trying to give you incentive to tune in. You can hear me talk about it. You can ask questions. And then if you happen to miss it, right, I'll post it in Google Classroom. Mm-hmm. But not, sometimes there's pictures and things that if you're not hearing my explanation, they don't really make sense.
Mm-hmm. But you're still grading the same. You did tests before, and you're doing tests only now, so it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, tests and then completion of those worksheets, which, again, and the answers are on there, but they're, I don't know how many pages, 20-some pages long, and it takes some time to do them. They're a bit laborious, but they are thorough and detailed. And as much as the kids hate doing them, they tell me at the end of the year those were the best thing, because they really help prepare you.
Cool. For like AP? Or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to do all the AP exams online this year. So that was a interesting situation.
How did, were they for the AP themselves or just?
Yeah, so College Board had to figure out in short order how to convert all these tests to do online with all the same problems. What if kids Google it? What if they, AP teachers complained endlessly about it not being perfect and finding lots of different flaws. But given the circumstances, I think they did a pretty good job and really as best as could be done. And one way they controlled it is it's time limited, right? If you don't study and you think you're going to be able to look everything up on Google, you're flat going to run out of time and you're going to get a bad grade. My AP scores actually went up. A nice jump. Now, of course, we had made a bunch of reforms last year. We were hoping to be able to compare to last year's scores. But I think that data is kind of invalid given the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, whereas SAT and ACT, they had to cancel the tests.
Right.
If anybody actually gave them, I'm not aware of it.
No, my son is looking to take it because he did very well on the pre-PSAT, or the PSAT when he was a sophomore. Well, the official PSAT for scholarships is junior year. He was deathly ill. He never gets sick. He was sick for 3 days and missed the PSAT. They don't do makeup. Like, fine, don't worry, you'll take the SAT. Well, then COVID hits. And I'm hoping my son can take a test that will count to get him admitted to college before he graduates.
Wow. I wonder what the colleges will do about that. They'll just have to throw it out, look at other stuff.
A lot of them have been looking to throw out the SAT anyway, and I'm already seeing them use this as an excuse to not count tests anymore.
And then some companies are starting to not care about degrees either, like Google.
Right.
They want someone who can actually work, and they focus on that in interviews and stuff, not what degree you have or don't have.
Right. If you have the skills, fine. My question for the universities, though, is you have to sort kids some way. If you have 30,000 applicants and you're only going to take 8,000, how do you sort them if you're not using the SAT?
Yeah. some kind of uniform way, at least they can defend themselves some. This is why we admitted these people. What advice do you have for students on dealing with the COVID thing?
Well, I think last semester was enough time for us to be flexible and to adjust to it and kind of get over ourselves. It wasn't fun for anybody, but this is the new reality, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did this entire first semester online or close to it. So at some point we have to quit saying this isn't fair, this isn't this or that. We've been through pandemics before, we've been through world wars, right? Schools didn't stop because World War II was happening. So we've got to adapt and suck it up and realize that, let's say this virus goes away in a year or two. Well, now what? You've got to go into the workplace. What did you do in that 2-year period to make yourself employable? You can't just say to your employer, well, I really didn't adapt well, and so I didn't do much.
Yeah. But it was COVID. I couldn't do anything. I just played every day. I played video games.
Well, you see some of these people online that have learned a new language and picked up a new instrument. And
yeah. Any other advice for the kids on how to study, maybe what they can do in this context?
A lot of the kids have told me that they've enjoyed the flexibility, and it really does bring into question, do we need to have kids stacked in classrooms for 8 hours a day to get them to learn meaningful amounts?
Yeah.
I found, and I try not to have any filler in my classes or busy work, I hate busy work, that I was still able to streamline and cover really 90% of the important stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I'd love to have, let's go 4 days a week and have Fridays off. You know, so many kids are gone on Fridays for extracurricular, sometimes 20 to 25% of your classes. Because there's soccer game and band contest and fine. Let's say Fridays is extracurricular and study and
and then I think people maybe could do something better for the kids because a lot of it is the sleep schedule's antithetical to human health.
Right.
Very wrong. People are kids are becoming unhealthy. They're have a compromised future. Some are dying from some of this ignorance about sleep. They go to a stupid football game someplace else. I mean, the football game's not stupid. People, I'm not saying that. I mean, the stupid time, some adults have some stupid time to play some football game. They go far away. They come back. They get to bed at 2 a.m. That's irresponsible. What the hell is that? They need their sleep. That is so wrong.
Oh, two is a pretty good night. Sometimes our band has come back at 3 and 3:30, and part of it's Texas is so big it can be a 2-3 hour drive to get to the team you're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then they're expected to get up for school and function the next day. It's what kind of adult does that?
But the school start times, most high schools have been adjusted to have late start times.
Yeah.
So most are 8:30 or even 9.
Yeah, I think they should be 9 or 10. I had to start 7:30, and it was way too early.
The problem with that is then extracurricular, and can you get kids to finish football practice or band practice and be home by a reasonable dinner or by dark, and then have to do homework and so on?
Well, that's also assuming that the school length of the school day is the same as it is now. But as we discussed, it doesn't need to be.
That's true. And if we streamline some of this stuff, maybe we drop from 55-minute classes to 45-minute classes.
Yeah. Get rid of some of the busy work, as you say, and focus on actual learning and toss out some of the nonsense courses or whatever and get the Friday off. Then they got more time for sleep and all that.
Well, that's the hope with this is kind of a societal reset, and we're certainly re-examining how we do school in charter schools and private schools, and people talking about forming micro schools in neighborhoods. We've been doing this one-size-fits-all thing for 100 years, and we do it pretty well. It really depends on where you live. Some public schools are amazing, and some are very unamazing. But the idea that everybody's got to be in a 3,000 person school, how many of those kids get lost in the middle?
Mm-hmm.
We do well with the low end kids, we do well with the high end kids, but what about that B minus kid who doesn't really stand out in any way?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any change, ultimately. It's so monolithic and it's so ingrained in the culture, and people think that's just the way it is. There'll be some changes, yeah. Some people are going to do some things differently, some minor things, but too much money, too much entrenchment. People, like too many, aren't creative enough to adapt. Think, okay, well, we got this thing and we got these schools and stuff. Instead of doing the same thing, how can we adapt and change but still keep our jobs and keep these schools or whatever?
Yeah, if you've seen any of the news stories, some of the teachers' unions, and we don't really have, they're not true unions in Texas, they're just professional organizations, but East and West Coast, with some of the demands they're making to close down our charter schools, close down private schools, defund the police, or we're not coming back, etc. Again, this is a unique opportunity to think about how do we do education and what's the best way to do it. And let's inject some experimentation. As you said, it's really been monopolized over the past 50, 100 years, and there's not much room to experiment.
Yeah. And I like what Dr. Maria Montessori said, or at least people that work with her and follow her. She lived it, if didn't actually say it, but every teacher should be a scientist. That was part of a quote, I think. Something like every teacher should be a scientist, an angel, and something else.
Yeah, well, trying what works, re-examining, readjusting, and most teachers do. But you can kind of tell whether teachers do by talking to them, and teachers that are really frustrated or say, I've tried everything, they're stuck in a rut. Mm-hmm. And ideally a department head or another teacher is going to help them get out of that. But
yeah, a lot of that goes back to just a need to revamp and revolutionize the whole basic epistemology in the culture, as Galileo had to do. There's actually one quote from the book When the World Stood Still. Forgot the author's name. It's about Galileo. But he says that Galileo's radical renewal sprang from the Aristotelian mindset. I think then the quote goes on to say he was educated in a Jesuit college. And then there's a colon in the next sentence, and the author says, the human mind is capable of grasping the evidence of the senses and reasoning and using logic about things from there. So that's where he was fundamentally changing the Platonic philosophy, having this radical epistemological change so that science could actually develop. Unfortunately, because of some of our culture, some bad ideas, misunderstandings, people think philosophy and physics are at war. I think that started around the time of Hegel. I think Hegel was a jerk to some people, him and some others, and that's when the physicists and scientists and the philosophers started hating each other. But before then, it did not happen, and they were more unified. And then, if we do that, just as Galileo did, likewise, just as science took off and finally got his feet on the ground and became successful, education would be better off too.
Well, C.P. Snow talked about that in his essay, what is it? I forget the name now, Two Cultures, in which he talks about how science and the humanities kind of split apart. And in the 20th century, then all of these departments kind of in their own little silos, keeping their specialized bodies of knowledge to themselves. Now, specialization does give us advances, but his point was you're at the point where scholars from different fields can't talk to each other because everything is so subspecialized. And I have a big poster on my wall called The Moral Sciences, and that's how economics was taught back when Adam Smith taught it. It was economics plus ethics plus law plus philosophy. And so with those three courses I teach, I try and kind of integrate them. And a lot of kids will take me for all three courses. And you get a much richer, interconnected education.
Robert Heinlein said specialization is for insects.
Yeah, I know that line.
I don't remember everything. It's too long. I haven't memorized it. But he said a human should be able to cook breakfast, cook an egg, change a tire, plan a revolution, fly a spaceship, change a tire, change a diaper.
Well, and that's when things are more integrated like that, kids don't ever say, when am I ever going to use this? They see the connections.
Yeah.
So I get in, second year calculus or something, that class is pretty much for future math majors. And a kid who's not that kind of math person probably shouldn't be taking that class. And if he does, he might be saying, when am I ever going to use this? But again, making these connections where we can and purposely thinking about curriculum in that way instead of, and that's my problem with macroeconomics. That class is designed to train future economists, and it's kind of boring unless you inject some humanity into it.
But I'd have to say about second semester calculus, there's actually a lot of uses for it if they'd bring them into play. And I know I've talked to some people too, and they say they took math and wondered when you ever use it. But once they took calculus, there were all these word problems and applications they were doing all over the place, and they were just like flabbergasted. It's like, whoa, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah. Well, and that's, economics they think is all the charts and the graphs, and we teach that, of course, that's on the AP exam, but it's the study of how incentives shape human behavior and the trade-offs that are going to be made.
Yeah.
This whole thing, do we lock down or do we open up the economy? That's dealing with what are the trade-offs. That's economic reasoning.
Yeah. And we need to make more of the connections. I hear people say that they act like if you want some businesses to be open, then you're for killing everybody, which is like totally ludicrous.
Yes.
It's not like you can't, so the whole idea that you can connect and integrate and see, okay, what's the best thing to do for the whole of a human life, WHOLE, considering work, the need to get food to people, medicine, hospitals to work, people not to commit suicide, people not to get depressed, people to stay healthy and to get COVID under control. It's like one versus the other. Oh, it's like if you're for freedom, then you're for everyone getting sick. Oh, if you're controlling COVID, then you're anti-freedom. I don't think so. I think there is, like some people would say, I think Rand said this on Rand. I don't know who else might have said this too. Sometimes, like some people say, there's, you want to get in the middle. The opposite poles are wrong. I like the way she said it. It's like, no, the opposite poles are just different sides of the same counterfeit coin. You got a valid coin, and then entirely separately, not in the middle, that you got that, and then separately, you've got the two sides of the counterfeit coin.
Yeah, I agree. It's this Manichaean black and white, you're for us or against us type of thinking, and we see this with masks, right? Some people saying if you don't wear them, you're purposely trying to kill people. Some people saying they're tyranny. I can't take a strong position either way. It seems like a reasonable precaution to me.
Yeah.
I don't feel oppressed when I wear one. I do wear it as little as possible, right? If I get in a parking lot, it's coming off. But if I'm around other people, I don't think it's too much to ask.
Yeah, and it's like when people have a compromised immune system, they have a much higher risk of death from this if they get it. And why? It's like, and I think what comes into play here too is the whole connected thinking. Just not being able to do that. It also reminds me of, having a degree in philosophy and having studied it. Fascinated how all these people, philosophers, and all these people in our culture look at selfishness in a certain way, and then you read Ayn Rand, and you don't get what she says about selfishness at all, as a lot of people do who think they follow her. They don't really get what selfishness is. And then you see, it's about the self means For her, not some emotion-ridden, short-term thinking beast that runs around drooling, as most people think of selfishness. It's like she thought philosophically, what is the human self? What's human nature? It's to be a rational animal, to have volition, to be a self-controlled. It's a philosophy for an adult. It's not a philosophy for some emotion-ridden thing. That's not what selfishness really is scientifically according to man's nature. So people would think, what do I need as a human being to survive? I need friends. I need to exist in this world. I'm not some little social spirit freewheeling it, doing whatever I feel like. You know, I'm living in a world of cause and effect. That's the root of any rational scientific idea about selfishness, I think, you know? And so it's in your self-interest to, like, take care of the people you love. Like, hello, you know?
And a lot of people can't get past Rand's abrasive personality, which, fair enough. But another way to say the word selfishness is enlightened self-interest.
Yeah.
Right? That you're not out to harm other people. You're out for yourself, as we all are, but my rights end where yours begin. Yeah. And again, so a mask seems a reasonable thing. So I've often taken phrases of hers or passages, and if you just relanguage them into less aggressive language, people are like, oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of funny how some of that works. But yeah, when I've explained some of that to some people, they're like, oh yeah, I never thought of it like that. Well, yeah, of course, because we're not geniuses. You know? Well, I never did either until someone told me. You know?
I tell my students, I care about my kids more than I care about you.
Yeah.
Right? And I care about you guys more than I do the kids next door whom I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the kids at the next high school over.
Yeah.
And I try to care about humanity in general, but can you care about 7 billion people?
Yeah, not
I'm
possible.
Not sure that you can in a real sense.
Yeah. You can't do anything about it. Just like there's a little story. A lot of people know someone's walking on the beach, or someone's on the beach, and they see someone up ahead throwing starfish in, and they go up to the person, what are you doing? You can't save all the starfish. There's only starfish on the beach. Like, you can't do anything. Why are you wasting your time? And he picks one up and throws it out. It matters to this one.
Yep, every teacher knows that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
But if other people do that too, right? That's how groups are formed, and that's how problems get improved.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a story too about like some guy on some beach starting to pick up trash. It was just piled feet deep in trash. It was horrible. One guy starts picking it up, goes around, gets some other people to help. Starts with the one guy, and then other people helping, doing the same thing. And now you look at it, and, you know, it's this gorgeous beach. No trash at all. Beautiful.
There's a good video on YouTube of a guy at a music festival, and he's standing this kind of sloping hill, and he starts dancing to the music. Everybody else is sitting on blankets or whatever, and he's just really getting after it by himself. And this other guy finally jumps up and starts dancing with him, and I'm not sure if they were intoxicated or not. But the video plays for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden, it just became infectious. And there's like 100 and something people dancing.
Cool. Yeah.
And there is research in psychology on that whether it's picking up trash or having a positive attitude, and negative attitudes can be infectious as well.
Yeah, interesting. Because we're social animals. It makes sense.
And as a former coach, you can only have so many negative attitudes on a team.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be a small percentage.
You just got to get rid of some of the negativity. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And there was an old song about that. Is it Louis Armstrong? Accent the positive, eliminate the negative. Great song. Yeah. But, well, you got to sign off before long. You got any other ideas you want to share with parents or students or teachers about handling this thing?
Well, I guess last thing I would say for students is to be assertive, be in charge of your education, Some of the teachers have adapted better online than others, but it's really up to you to demand your education and to stay on top of it. And for parents, I think the goal is this is a great opportunity to make kids self-sufficient. My youngest one, I would still wake up. And when all this stuff went down, I said, guess what, kids? You're getting up. I'm not coming upstairs. You better set your alarms, make it happen. And they have adapted nicely.
Cool. Yeah, I tell a lot of my students that too. I tell them thinking is not a spectator sport. Life is not a spectator sport. Do it. Dig your fingers in the dirt.
That's a good line.
Part. And then I like to use alliteration because I like language. I'll often say, instead of, do you have any questions? It's kind of boring. So I always like to say, because some people find it really humorous, they don't expect it. Any questions, comments, criticisms, or curses?
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is, what questions do you have? Because that invites questions, whereas if you say, do you have any, they never do.
Oh, yeah. Good point. It's a good distinction. Hey, cat. Kitty. You want to eat, kitty? Okay, we both got to go. I'm being summoned.
All right, then.
All right. Thanks, Scott. It's good to
enjoyed it.
Talk again. Have to schedule another one in a week or 2 or 3 or something.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
See you then.
Have a good day.